the Bible teaches that there are some truths about the calling that God has on your life that you need to understand so that you don't get disappointed, but also so you can understand some of the patterns of your life that are already there. Your calling will come from a spirit-given dream or vision that you'll probably find hard to put words around. And it'll gradually come into focus as you follow. We see in Acts that Peter quotes the prophet Joel. He says, in the last days, this is what Peter's saying is happening, God says, I'll pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. And the word there prophesy isn't about telling the future. It's about speaking God's truth into the moment. That's what the word actually means. Your young men will see visions, your old men will dream dreams. Even on my servants, both men and women, I'll pour out my spirit in those days, and they will prophesy. That there will be part of you that you find hard to put into words, that cares about, when you're at your best, there'll be something that you care about, and you kind of have a picture of how it could be different. And it'll be different often to how other people care about it, and you will probably find it hard to put it in a neat and tidy sentence. You see, the calling that God has on your life is not easily put into a 3-point plan. He calls you to a dream, to a vision, to something bigger than you. And gradually, maybe as you look back on your life, you'll see the pattern. But in the short term, probably, if you can put what you sense your calling is into a neat and tidy package, it's probably not your calling. It's probably bigger than that. Sometimes God will be asking you to do something new and step into somewhere new. Sometimes, as you discover your calling, he may actually, like he did to the people of Israel in Jeremiah, say, no, I want you to stay where you are in exile and seek the peace of the city where you are. He may not be calling you to something new. Your task is to work out what it is. We are trying to organise our church to support you in stepping into the calling that God has on your life. Our understanding is the purpose of the church is to help you grow and mature fully into the person God created you to be. So Jesus is the centre of your life, and you are bringing the gift that he designed you to bring into the world. For all of us, the specific calling God has on your life is much more about a goal, or probably a number of goals even, than a role. The number of people I have bumped into who want to be, I don't know, a radio announcer or a pastor or an artist or a writer, and what they're aspiring to is a role. And it never works because it's all about your identity. You are not called to a role. You are called to seek first the kingdom of God, and that's going to require you to play lots of different roles. One of the real dangers as we start talking about calling is that you can start to think, I want to be a. And God's calling on your life isn't finishing that sentence. It's about following Jesus and being willing to do whatever it is he has for you to do. And I can promise you, he'll have all kinds of roles for you. Some of them you'll love, some of them you may not. Another thing that, again, this is where we can easily, when we talk about stepping into the calling God has on my life, we can so easily get this the wrong way around. Always you stepping into the calling that God has on your life will require you to die to yourself. I've listed the number of times Jesus says, if you want to follow me, you need to be ready to take up your cross. Matthew 10, Matthew 16, Mark 8, Luke 9, Luke 14, Luke 17, Luke 18 and John 12. Like every gospel. It's hard to miss this truth, but it's amazing how our society keeps telling us the opposite of that. If you really want to step into the story that is yours, there is this paradox at the heart of our faith. If you want to grasp a life that feels good and where everything kind of works for you and your ego, this is what Jesus says here in John. Anyone who loves their life will lose it. Anyone who prioritises their own life will lose it. But he promises this. If you're ready to take your eyes off yourself and stop fighting for yourself, but put your eyes on him and care about what he cares about, that's where you find your life, on the other side of death. Your calling will always be about being willing to die to yourself. And as part of dying to yourself, I've already kind of touched on this, but as part of dying to yourself, you will need to serve and do things you don't want to do. We see that Jesus trying to get this through to the disciples in Luke 22. The kings of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who exercise authority over them call themselves benefactors. But you're not to be like that. Instead, the greatest among you should be like the youngest, and the one who rules like the one who serves. He says, everybody looks for the hero, the celebrity, but I've come and I've shown you what it looks like to serve, and you're to do what I do. So the great measure of leadership in the kingdom and of stepping into your story is whether you're willing to clean the toilets. If you can think whatever job you really, really don't want to do, whatever thing you really don't want to do, it may not be right for you to do it, but you need to be willing to do it. You need to be ready to serve. The Apostle Paul says you are Christ's ambassadors. We are meant to be little outposts. So that's part of, for you, as you step into your calling, you will be about representing God to the world. As part of that, all of our specific callings are about bringing blessing, not condemnation. All of our specific callings, as you step into the calling God has for you, people will experience you as a blessing. There's a number of verses about this, but this one's fairly pointed. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing. Because to this you were called so that you may inherit a blessing. So part of you stepping into the calling that God has on your life will definitely be about you going, okay, how do I bring blessing to these people where I am? You're going to need fellowship. You will not step into the story that God has on your life and be able to sustain it without friends who know your world enough to be with you in it. That's why we talk a lot about kingdom cells. And if you are isolated, you will veer off the path very quickly. You need fellowship. You need people, Galatians says, carry each other's burdens. You need people who will carry the burdens with you. And let's be honest, we are, as a church, on a journey to work out how to do this. I don't think there are many churches in the Western world that do fellowship well, because it's a bit confronting, because we tend to want to put on a good face. But you will need fellowship. You just will, if you're going to step into the story God has for you. A big part of the impact you will have in the world will actually be as a result of the fact you are deeply connected in a local church where people love Jesus. That Jesus himself said, this is how people will know me. And he says, it's because you love each other. Fellowship's not only important for you, but it's essential if you want to be Jesus' representative in the world. The way you relate to your brothers and sisters in the church should be speaking to the people around you. We want to be the kind of church where people say, gee, you guys love each other, don't you? I'd like some of that. But like I said, you can't be selfish and have fellowship. It just doesn't work. It's not possible. Just one last thing, and this kind of relates. As you step into the calling that God has for you, it will not be your words that have the biggest impact. 1 Peter 3, be ready to give an answer for people who ask you, why do you have so much hope? To be living the kind of life where people look at you and go, gee, you're hopeful. Why are you so hopeful? It will be your life that speaks. This is what Jesus meant when he said, You are to be the light that helps bring truth to everybody. Your life is meant to be speaking, is what he's saying.